Abba Father, we are starting a brand new series today, and we are going to be doing a study of the book of Galatians. And I'm going to be teaching from the King James translation of the Bible, going through Paul's letter to the Galatians. And we are jumping right in from Galatians chapter 1, and we are going to start with verse 1. We know, of course, and we will find out that Paul wrote the book of Galatians. It's one of the earliest books that he did, and that he wrote it to the Galatians, to the churches in Galatia, as we shall see here. And that we will see that there was a consistent theme in Paul's letter to the Galatians. He's discussing the grace of God. And he has a bone to pick with the people of the churches of Galatia in terms of how they had moved away from what they had initially received. And so he's writing this as a correction, course correction for the Galatians. This book is also Paul's most brutal letter. He was incensed when he wrote Galatians. He was not in a good mood, and we will find out why as we keep discussing. So it's a really, really, really powerful book that the Apostle Paul writes. And we can jump right in verse 1 of Galatians chapter 1. He says, Paul, an apostle, not of men, neither by man, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead. So straight away he introduces himself, identifies himself as the author of this book. Remember that when the apostles wrote these books, they would write them on either papyrus or leather, and then send them to the churches. And so when the people received a letter, it was good practice in their day for the writer to immediately identify himself, so that they didn't have to go through the parchment or the scroll to look for who wrote this. They would identify who wrote it from the very top. So he begins by saying, Paul, I'm the one writing this. And he says, an apostle. And that's important because he does not say Apostle Paul, because apostle was not his identity. His name was Paul. Apostle was not his name. He was Paul, a son of God, an apostle. So he does not say Apostle Paul. He says Paul, an apostle. Paul with this apostolic mandate. And then this apostle is also an important thing, because we know that at this time we had what we know as the 12 apostles, the apostles of Jesus, that Jesus selected and sent out. What does apostle mean? One that was sent, a messenger. But in their day, an apostle meant somebody that was sent as a messenger to accomplish a specific task, or to carry a specific message, to deliver a specific message. What made one apostolic was, one, the fact that they were sent, and two, they were sent with a specific message or to accomplish a specific task. So Jesus sent out his apostles to carry the specific message called the gospel, and to establish the church, to begin the process of building the church. And later Paul will say that the church is built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets. So they were sent out with a mandate to establish and to build the church. Not everybody could just self-appoint. You couldn't just think, oh, I think I'm an apostle. You had to be sent. For you to be an apostle, you had to be sent. And you had to be sent with a message, because you're a messenger. Or you had to be sent to accomplish a specific task. That's what made you apostolic. And that's why Paul says here, Paul, an apostle, not of men, neither by man, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead. We know that apart from the 12 apostles, from the book of Acts, we see that there were other apostles that were appointed later, that the apostles also appointed apostles that they sent out to go and do the work and minister and build churches and establish churches and do all of this work. For example, Barnabas and all of these that were appointed later by the apostles, they also appointed apostles, or by the church, the early church appointed apostles. And then we also know that there were people who were self-appointed. And so these itinerant Jews, Paul's enemies, the ones that kept going church after church, contradicting him and mocking him and challenging him, they claimed that Paul was a self-appointed apostle. That, like today, people will ask, who sent you? Which church do you come from? Which Bible college did you go to? Which seminary did you go to? Who ordained you? Where did you graduate from? Where did you study your theology from? That is not new. Even in Paul's day, that was a question. Do you remember, even with Jesus, that was a point of asking him, which rabbi did you study under? Which rabbinical school did you go to? Because just like today, they felt that you had to be appointed by a group or by a denomination or by a school in order for you to have the credentials to minister. And so Paul is saying, I do not have the credentials of men. I did not attend anybody's New Testament school or Bible college. I am not sent by man, neither not of men. In other words, I'm not appointed apostle by men, neither by man, but by Jesus Christ. Paul is emphasizing and asserting his divine call, that it is Jesus Christ who sent him to be an apostle. Just like Jesus Christ sent Peter and John and James and Jude rather. Paul is saying that I also was sent by Jesus Christ. I am not self-appointed. I'm not even man-appointed. I am not denomination-appointed. I did not graduate from a Bible college to send me, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father. Paul speaks about this Trinitarian view, which we never separate the Father and the Son. Apostle sent by Jesus Christ and God the Father. These two working in harmony, Jesus Christ and God the Father. I am appointed by Jesus Christ and God the Father. I am not appointed by Jesus Christ. I'm appointed by Jesus Christ and God the Father. They're in perfect agreement concerning my ministry. I am commissioned and sent by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead. So here's one of the big deals in our belief as Christians, which is that God raised Jesus from the dead, that God the Father raised Jesus from the dead. When you read in Acts 2:24, it says, whom God has raised up, that God raised up Jesus, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. In Acts 2:25, that's the next verse. For David speaks concerning him, I foresaw the Lord always before my face. He foresaw Christ. For he is on my right hand, that I should not be moved. Therefore did my heart rejoice, and my tongue was glad. Moreover also my flesh shall rest in hope. Because you will not leave my soul in hell, neither will you suffer your Holy One to see corruption. You have made known to him the ways of life. You shall make him full of joy with your countenance. And verse 29, men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you. This is Peter talking of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins according to the flesh he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne. He, seeing this before, spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, neither his flesh did see corruption. This Jesus, verse 32, has God raised up, whereof we are all witnesses. That God the Father raised Jesus, and David foresaw this and prophesied it. We talked about this some earlier, and now Peter is repeating this.